All right, so we've been asked from multiple people. I get a lot of questions about this, and I think you've been getting them too about our relationship. Certain questions, how did we meet? What questions did you get? How did you call this in, etc.?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we thought we'd make something for people to stop harassing us in our DMs. So it's like just go to my profile, have a look at the answers to the questions. So we got 10 questions together that are probably pretty good questions, I think, for us that we thought we'd answer for everyone else. So I'll ask you the first one. What was the moment you knew you wanted to be with me?
Well, there's kind of like two answers to this. So we met, well, we were friends for about a year before we, got into a relationship. And as soon as I met you, there was definitely, a significant amount of curiosity and intrigue. Like you were this guy sitting at this local cafe precinct work area where I was working, and you'd always be sitting there each day with your Tom Ford sunnies on and your tats, working and looking like a bit of a bad boy. And I was like, who's this guy?
Forget the
Byron
gold
Bay.
Rolex.
Pardon?
Don't forget the golden
Oh,
Rolex
and the
as well.
golden Rolex that was blinding me every day. um, yeah, so obviously we met, and then I started following your work online, and that's when, a significant amount of like admiration and respect started to develop towards you and just the work that you did and like the man that you were. And we had mutual friends as well. So I also saw how you treated the people that you really cared about that were sort of in your inner circle. So I saw how much the stuff that you shared online like carried through to your personal relationships and who you were. So I guess I was always like attracted to those aspects within you from very early on, and I digged the bad boy look. And then, I was in a relationship last year. So once I got out of that relationship and we were able to chat in a way that, was like more than friends, and the connection really opened up between us, it was pretty instant that I was just like, yeah, very smitten and into you.
Nice. So for me, a similar chain of events with you was when I first saw you. I actually went to the place where I'd seen you to pick you up that day, the day we met, actually. But you were already in a relationship at that time, or, dancing with someone. So I sort of stepped aside and left it, which was interesting timing because I went there that day to be like, right, I got to get this woman's phone number and move ahead with it. But we had to go on different paths at the time. So there was a strong initial recognition and attraction to you. And that for me grew with time as well. Like I actually said to one of my best mates, I'm like, man, I would lock her down in a second for some time. And then when you got out of that relationship, it emerged that was, the thoughts and everything else that I had around that was pretty significant. And so the connection really emerged when we could sort of drop the formality or the restrictions that were there. And I think that the freedom really came instantly. It was like soon as that opened up and we both admitted it, it was just on, and it was like there from day one.
Yeah, there was such a solid connection there that it felt like I'd known you for lifetimes.
Yeah.
So it was really nice when we could sort of explore that together.
I think it's really important. One of the qualities that I talk about is to be best friends first. And I think that because we had that year or a bit more than a year of being friends, to set a foundation of knowing each other, then the relationship could start immediately from something that was already built. We didn't have to get to know each other or anything like that. And I only ever heard amazing things about you from everyone. I've never heard a bad word about you from anyone. And so that was always really appealing. And, the things I heard were very much in line with what I was looking for in a woman as well. And so that just increased my attraction to you over time. And then, yeah, like I said, when it opened up, it just was like nothing we could do to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, like, because you talk a fair bit about like the reverse honeymoon where you get to know someone for 3 months before, you become super intimate with them or anything like that. And it's kind of like we got to have that with each other, but without the agenda of like hoping that a relationship will ensue from getting to know each other. And I know that not all relationships can start off in that way, but now that I've experienced it, because I haven't started any of my other previous relationships that way, now that I've experienced it from having that foundation of friendship and just really getting to know someone without, I guess like, yeah, the desire to have a relationship with them also being present. It's just so powerful because you really get to see who someone is without, when you're trying to get into a relationship or you like someone, you generally put your best foot forward and you may not like expose all parts of yourself. Whereas we really got to see who each of us was just in everyday life, like, flaws and all, just in a very sort of casual sense. Like I really got to see who you were over an extended period of time in work, in your friendships, just in your day to day. And that's so powerful because, yeah, there was no masking or trying to hide anything in that sense.
So let me ask you a bit of a curveball question, and this is not on our list. What do you find is different for me and how you've perceived me based on online versus real life? And I ask you this because it's like there's a certain image that people have of me online.
The bulldog.
The pit bull.
The pit bulls.
I'm not a fucking bulldog. They're fat and ugly and all the rest of it. So get it right. So what do you think is like a misconception people might have of me online versus in real life, and also what's consistent and the same?
Well, I think everything is consistent in the same, like how you show up online is also how you are in person. So there's no inconsistencies there, but probably what I would say you don't see as much of online, or yeah, I would say it's like your playful, humorous, fun, silly side, that you've actually got quite a really soft and gentle side as well to you. And you're absolutely that really strong, stoic, masculine man that's like, no one fuck with me, and you won't let anyone fuck with you or, anyone that's important to you. But you also have this incredibly like tender, soft, gentle side. For example, when I'm really upset and I'm crying or, just having a bad day, like you're able to just sit with me and hold me, and I feel like you're just creating the most like beautiful, safe space for me to just break down in. And you're very sensitive towards my feelings and emotions. And you're also just like so silly and ridiculous. And, we're constantly laughing 24/7, and you're the funniest person I've ever met. And that's one of my favorite aspects of our relationship, like how much you make me laugh. And, we'll watch Seinfeld together, which is such a goofy show that most people don't like. But we like think it's we think it's like the funniest show ever. And it's definitely your playfulness that probably doesn't come through online as much.
Yeah, nice. And to add to that, I guess because people are going to watch this, what I want them to know is that it's that gentle and ability to hold you in your space of difficulty comes from a place of a lack of emotionalism on my side, and being grounded and stoic and solid and having capacity through the things I've been through. So it's not like I'm sitting there like a mother going, oh my God, it's okay, like that, and being all sort of emotional about it. It's actually one of the things I say is, I'm like, it's all right to feel whatever you need to feel. And my nervous system doesn't register a change. My breath doesn't change. I'm just grounded and solid in that. So some people might see it as like me automatically moving to being emotional for you, but rather it's actually I become more still rather than emotional. So just so people know that it's not a trying to fix, it's just being completely okay with whatever comes up for you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because I can feel just how contained you are, and that makes me feel so much more safe to just fall apart. Because if I start to anticipate that you're going to fall apart and get triggered by my emotions, I'm naturally just going to shut down and want to suppress and feel like it's not safe to fully express myself. And I've never had that with a man, not with my father, not with any of my previous like romantic relationships, where I felt like the man I was with could really hold the full spectrum of my emotionality, which I think as a woman, that's one of the biggest things that will make you feel safe and be able to like fully surrender with your man, is knowing that just he can hold like the immensity of your, I guess, emotional chaos. And I don't mean chaos in the way of like being unhinged as a woman, because I feel like that also is something that I guess is kind of being enabled a little bit in the female empowerment world, where it's just like, oh, just embrace like your feminine chaos. And that doesn't mean to be like completely dysregulated and flying off the handle
Or abusive.
spilling out your emotions onto other people. There's still a level of emotional regulation and containment that's important to have, I believe, as an individual, whether you're masculine or feminine. But, women are driven by their emotions. Men aren't. Well, you would argue that some men are these days.
Most,
men are.
unfortunately.
Yeah, most men. And yeah, you just can't open up as a woman when you feel that your man is driven by his emotions and he's going to become emotional over you expressing your emotions. You just want to shut down.
Yeah.
So that is like, I'm really glad you touched on that, because that's so important. And you do that so incredibly well. Like, you are literally unshakable in that sense. But I feel like where people get this wrong online is they think that you're unshakable and that you don't feel things, or that you suppress your feelings. Whereas like, you can be emotionally available and emotionally contained.
Yeah.
Like, you're the most emotionally available man I've ever met in my entire life. And you're also the most emotionally contained man I've ever met.
Yeah.
And I think it's no coincidence that within that, this is the most happy, fulfilled, relaxed and stress-free I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
And that's thanks to you.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I want to reflect back to you about your ability to actually bring the quote unquote feminine chaos is the essential part that I see a lot of women not attributing to that is your level of accountability. So you don't spill it out onto me and go, this is you on you. This is up to you to hold. You can't handle me. You don't do any of that. And we were just at breakfast this morning with a friend, and I said, you are the only woman I've ever met that's fully accountable. And so I think I know that about you. And so that feminine chaos, I know that you take responsibility for it and you don't blame me for you feeling that, which I think is the absolute essential key that most women miss. They don't take responsibility for their shit. And if anything, it's almost like the only thing we really argue about is whose fault it is, but not about it's your fault or, I'm not saying it's yours. You're not saying it's mine. I'm like, no, this is my responsibility. And you're like, no, it's my responsibility. I'm like, no, this is my fault. So I want to acknowledge that within you, because that's a really important part, that you bring the chaos, and not chaotic from being unhinged, abusive, manipulative, and trying to burn the house down. And it's interesting because it's like, it's such a small amount of emotion that you actually bring that it's not a big deal. It's actually very easy just to sit and be with because it is contained within that self-accountability. Whereas it becomes uncontained and unhinged and damaging when it's, oh, this is all on you, that you need to handle this for me. And so I always say, I've been with women before where I would just say, no, this is yours. You need to own this. I've never had to do that with you because you just automatically have that, which makes the container for the whole thing much easier to deal with, because I'm not against you. I'm not fighting against you. Or more importantly, you're not fighting against me. So that's an attribute that I think is really important for women to know. And you're the best example I've ever seen of that in any woman.
Thanks, babe. That's really sweet. Sorry, I know we've talked a lot on this one question, but there is another thing that I think doesn't really get shown online, and that's just how much you help people just in your everyday life. Like, you're constantly, I feel like, supporting your friends and the people around you through difficult times, or not just difficult times, but also just helping them to level up. Like, what's that saying you say of
all boats rise with the tide.
Yeah, all boats rise with the tide. And you're just so passionate about lifting everyone up around you and seeing them succeed, just as much as you are. And you're so generous with your time and your energy and your presence, because you've got already a lot on your plate work-wise in terms of how many people you're already supporting in terms of your clientele and like the things you're supporting them with, because you walk people through like some really dark, heavy stuff, and that already takes up a lot of capacity. But then you're also, doesn't take up a lot of capacity for you because you have like immense capacity, but you've still just got so much time for your friends. And then also just, people who message you in like your DMs and stuff. I was just blown away by how many people are reaching for your time or looking for support from you, and just how much you freely give to them. Like people maybe only see online how much you charge for your coaching courses, which is, like in a higher price bracket, but you offer so much free support for people just by being like who you are. And yeah, I feel like a lot of that goes unseen, and you don't another thing that's really special about you is you don't try and advertise that. You don't need the recognition in that. You just do it because you've got such a good heart and you care so much about helping people. And yeah, I think, that doesn't really get shown online either.
Thank you. Question 2. How do you think our relationship has changed since we first started dating?
You going to answer first?
Yeah, okay. I don't think it's really changed too much because we started with such a solid foundation and openness and honesty from day one. It's just that the connection and the bond has gotten deeper. That's the only thing that I really see with that. So interesting question, but also I think when you start from a place of friendship first, you get to see people, and one of the big delineations is like my professional capacity versus my personal capacity. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two, like you said, except the playfulness and some of those other attributes. So when you're setting it up from that perspective, the relationship hasn't changed too much because we came in from a place of openness and real like solidity to start, which was really, really good. So I don't know if that question is overly profound, but that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think it's changed much at all since we started dating. If anything, as you said, like it's just evolved naturally over time and has deepened and solidified. Like we obviously just went away for 2 weeks to Japan and Thailand. And, for a lot of people that would be like going overseas. We did that pretty early on in our relationship, but we were already living together, so it didn't really feel like a big deal to us at all. But I feel like during that time together, probably through having so many new experiences together and being together 24/7, which I think we were both surprised at, like the fact that we didn't feel we needed any alone time or anything like that, because we both like normally love our solitude. But yeah, just going overseas together and having all those experiences together just deepened and solidified our connection so much. And I feel like we've come back and our union and our bond just feels like completely unbreakable now, which is really beautiful. But yeah, I don't think it's changed over time at all. If anything, I think this is just a natural process of being in a relationship with someone. You just get to learn more about like their past history and their childhood and how that influences, the day-to-day and how they show up in the present, and just how to be like more tender and sensitive to the things that have occurred for them in the past and how that may like inform, whether they get triggered in certain moments or things that are a little bit more sensitive around in terms of like topics or conflict or whatever. So yeah, but like you said, we put so much of that on the table, like everything on the table from the get-go. And I think that's possibly the best way you can set up a relationship, is just being so honest and upfront from the beginning. Because if you're not honest and upfront from the beginning, you're essentially not giving that person the opportunity to love you for who you truly are. And that's always going to come back to bite you at some point.
Yeah.
So, and you really everyone wants someone to love them for who they truly are. So yeah, just being honest and upfront about everything from the start is the way to go.
Authenticity. Question 3, what's something I do that makes you feel the most loved?
The most loved. There's like a million things I could say right now, because everything you do pretty much just makes me feel so loved. But a really big one is just how well you take care of me, and to be like more specific would be just the protection and provision that you bring into my life and this relationship. Like you just cover all fronts in that sense. Like you provide so much, emotional support for me. Like I think we were discussing maybe on holiday, like what is one of the best elements of our relationship, or one of the best qualities in you as a partner, and it's how you protect me from myself. So I think as a woman, like, because we can be so self-critical and, you know, so much more emotional. Having a man who can protect you from yourself and also help you to step into the best version of yourself, like that's one of the things I love most about you, that you bring into my world and bring into my life and provide me with. But yeah, you literally care so much about my health and my happiness. You know, you're just so freely giving in the sense that you're like, babe, if you need acupuncture, you need to go see your naturopath, a massage, all of this, you're like, go, I'll book it now, I'll pay for it for you. And you, you know, provide us with such a beautiful home and life, and you're so freely giving with like your financial resources to ensure that I'm so supported and I don't need to stress about money or anything like that. And not only that, like you bring just so much like joy and love and care into my life, you know, whether it's around me pursuing my passions or just like making sure that I'm, you know, healthy and happy. Like you just bring so much into my life, and you're always so attentive to my needs and always ensuring that they're met. So, yeah.
So I'm going to ask another question on that, because that might stir some people up around protecting you from yourself.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that, to protect you from yourself, in the form of, say, decision making or choices or things like that? Because what I want people to understand is clarity around that, because I think some people, or especially some women that may resent these answers, they're going to see it as he's just controlling you and you don't know what you're in. They'll gaslight you, which they've tried to do already. And they'll try to convince you and gaslight you as though you don't know yourself. Which is funny, because they get upset about me protecting you from yourself and sometimes the choices that you might make, and then they're trying to enforce a choice that they want for you on you, which is the very thing that they say that I'm doing to you, but they're actually doing it to you, not me.
Yeah. Yes, not my first rodeo with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't mean like protect me from myself in the sense that I am reliant on you to protect me from myself. Like if I was a single woman, like not in a relationship, I can protect myself. Like I don't need you as a man, and like it's not like I'm some sort of helpless poor little girl who can't protect myself. It's more that you are able to protect me from myself, in my opinion. I don't care if other women don't agree with me. In my opinion, better than I can protect myself from myself, because you, well, one, you're not me. So you see and hear things from this like masculine perspective that's not emotional. So you're able to just like really ground me and soothe my mind, because I think as a woman, like you're just constantly on this like emotional roller coaster, even if you're, you know, a more regulated woman who's not overly chaotic. It's still like this.
Yeah.
And I still experience, you know, those like fluctuations of the mind where I'll like maybe doubt myself, or maybe there's like a day where I'm having a bit of like a bad body image day and just not feeling like super beautiful or sexy. And you just pull me out of it like that way faster than if I was just on my own doing life solo, that I could pull myself out of it. So it's not that I need you, but it's that you make it so much easier for me. And you don't just protect me from like the darker parts of myself and help me to work through and transmute them. You're equally like amplifying my strengths and the light within me, and celebrating me and helping me to step into the best version of myself, which is extremely empowering. And this is maybe the side that like, I don't know, more feminist women like don't want to hear and will block out.
Yeah.
But those two work in tandem.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what's so powerful about like having you around and having you as my partner, because, you know, I've really personally gone on this journey from stepping into the queen, or like really becoming a woman, because I'm 29 years old, and I've really felt that shift sort of starting from when I was maybe around 28, that I was, you know, moving beyond like the maiden archetype of myself and the more like younger woman type of myself, and really stepping into a more mature woman. And you've been like integral in that journey and helping me to step into that. So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. And it's a good point, because you could wrap that up in like what I would delineate or call leadership in leading a relationship. It might be, you know, you're having a really hard day and you're tired and you just want to lie on the couch, I'm like, no, we're going to go for a walk on the beach. Let's go. And it will pull you out of where you're at. Or I'll say, let's go do this. We need to do this, or get moving. Yesterday, I was, you were tired. I said, go and have a nap. And you're like, I'm like, go sleep now.
Yeah.
And then, that fixes things. And then rest allows you to get, have an emotional release, and then I hold you through that. And then you're feeling, much better after that. So I think I think it's an important point. It's not about control, which some women, and I don't really care if they think that, whatever, they're going to find a problem with anything, no matter what in life. But it's more about reduction of choice, which is what I talk about, where it's like, and I want to ask you how you not having to make so many choices has impacted your health and, your femininity and all of that, because I take on so many responsibilities in this relationships to reduce the choices that you don't want to handle, not the ones that you find that are important to you. It's not telling you what to do. Rather, it's more, in my opinion, it's like, I'll handle that, I'll handle that, I'll handle that, I'll handle it, which is what I've said for a long time, which is only going to piss off my haters even more, because like I do what I say I'm going to do for the most part, and say, the best thing a woman...
You have integrity.
I know. The thing a woman wants to hear is, I'll handle it. So how has that affected your health compared to where you came from versus where you're at now in, say, the last 3 to 6 months? And how has my leadership, say, in taking on the choices and responsibility, impacted your health and understanding of you as a woman?
There's so many things I want to say on this. So one thing I did want to just acknowledge, because you just said leadership, is that you're not leading the relationship or leading me from like a controlling or domineering place or anything like that. You have this position of leadership in our relationship because I trust you, and you've earned it through respect and through consistently demonstrating your ability to make really fucking good decisions for me, for us, and for our union. So naturally, I'm just like, I absolutely trust you with all my heart and all my being that you are going to lead us in the right direction. And that, for example, if you did make a wrong decision or it didn't have a desirable outcome or something, that you would absolutely be able to handle it and rectify the situation and, own up to it. I feel like it's not about you getting it right every single time and being perfect. It's about really your ability to make good decisions and problem solve. So that's like an important aspect, that not once have you ever tried to control me or tell me what to do or be possessive in any sense. Like, I'm very much my own sovereign being in this relationship, and I have agency, and I know I can do whatever I want whenever I want. But I choose to follow you because I respect you so much, and you inspire that within me because you're such like an admirable man, and I want to follow you because I know you're going to a really incredible place and you're going to lead us there.
Yeah.
So that's one point. And then the other thing being the reduction of choice. So,
and how has that impacted your health and understanding of you as a woman?
Yeah, it's been like revolutionary. So I've never had that either, where a man has come in and been like, babe, I'll handle it. I'll take all this stuff off your plate. And I have been the boss babe who has earned more money than my partner, had a shit ton of decisions to make all day, every day. And I'm not going to speak for all women, but I can just say for myself, it was absolutely exhausting. And I felt burnt out all the time. And on top of that, I was also doing a lot of like the more traditional feminine roles of like taking care of the household. And this was all, in a couple of years ago in a different relationship. And yeah, it was really exhausting. I didn't enjoy it at all. So being in a situation now where I have a partner like you who's willing to take everything I don't want to take care of off my plate is such a relief, and my health has improved so much from it. Like, I was in a place where my cortisol was super elevated. I wasn't sleeping. Like, I had insomnia. My cycle became irregular. Like, I was experiencing so many health issues as a result of feeling unsupported as a woman within my relationship. And you've just come in and like completely dissolved all of that. And, the health takes a while to correct itself. But as I said before, this is the happiest, healthiest, and like least stressed I've ever felt in my life. And yeah, it's just so nice that you are happy for me. Like, you still let me take care of what I want to take care of. Like, for example, on our holiday, you're used to like booking all the accommodation and just basically handling the whole thing from start to finish. Whereas I was like, hey, babe, I actually really love finding like cool hotels and resorts to stay at. Like, could that be something we either do together or I get to like, handle? And you're like, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe people like don't want to see that side, and maybe, to try and put myself in the shoes of these women who say it's controlling or possessive behavior.
Misogynists.
Yeah.
Toxic masculine.
Yeah, I would say that, they've probably just never experienced a man who is genuinely wanting to remove the stress and decisions from your life that you don't want to have to take on, and he's doing that from a place of like genuine selflessness and love and care for you.
Yeah.
There are plenty of men out there who want to control their partner. Equally, there are just as many women out there who want to control their man.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like a thing that men just do. It's just a thing that happens in relationships, but that's absolutely not where you're coming from with it. And my life is so much better and easier because of it. I love it this way.
So what do you think about 50-50 in a relationship if a man wants 50-50?
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Don't do it, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in those 50-50 relationships, and
I think you've only been in 50-50, haven't you?
yeah, I've only been in 50-50 relationships. And, even with my own like father, that relationship was very transactional as well, which I kind of feel like a 50-50 relationship is very transactional, because it's very much like you're keeping track of like, well, I spent this and you spent this. And I much prefer it. I love being taken care of. And, I think it works so well for us because you love to provide and take care of me, and I love to be taken care of and be provided for, so that I can provide you with a home. Like, what's that saying? The man provides the house.
The woman provides the home.
Yeah, the woman provides the home.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, that makes me feel so, so good within myself. And so I feel so satisfied and fulfilled. And I think the 50-50 thing, everyone can do relationships however they want. But I think that the 50-50 thing kind of reinforces this need for women to, I guess, be out there in the world working and hustling and providing financially. And we are both of the same opinion that this kind of goes against women's biology. And I know this is going to kick up a storm, but...
Well, you're a woman, so you're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you even have to say that, because that's where we've gotten to in society, that it's so abnormal for a man to want to take care of a woman and a woman to want to take care of a man, that you have to preface it by saying, oh, this is going to kick up a storm. And it's like, your biology is always going to rule.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think we can try and override our biology, but I would argue that, while a lot of women, particularly in the feminist world, would say, well, like, women have more opportunity now and there's more equality in the world, but it's like, at what cost? Because I don't know the rates, the statistics in Australia, but, as I work in the postpartum space, like 1 in 3 women in America are on psychiatric medication. So let's just talk about like how healthy and happy women are these days, because I don't really see that we're in a much better place now. Like, yeah, maybe we've got more opportunity, but what's the consequence of that?
Yeah. Well, there's a funny thing that goes around about that, which is 1/3 of women are on medication. The other 2/3 haven't been diagnosed, based on feminist thinking, which I'm not necessarily a proponent of that, but it's like, we're seeing that in relationships as well, where this kind of, unhinged, unaccountable woman has come along. But it's also the same with men, these sort of childlike, emotional boys that expect their woman to be their mother as well. So it's two equally ridiculous sides of the coin. And it's like we have this idea now where women have become so comfortable that they're afforded the opportunity to even say we don't need a man. The world's infrastructure is run by men. You know, supply chains are run by men. Infrastructure is run by men. It's built by men. It's created by men. The cars they drive to work in, the buildings that they operate in, the ability to transact in from a commercial aspect, all of that's been created by men. And they've gotten so comfortable in that space that they think that they go, oh, we don't need men. The world would collapse overnight without men, you know? And the thing is, you don't really ever hear a lot of men saying we don't need women, but it's only the women saying we don't need men, you know? So I think it's an important attribute where this natural biological balance starts to come back into order, which I think why this conversation is important, because it brings to light these things of you are a woman that's been taken care of by a masculine man that wants to be useful. Men should want to be useful. And I don't respect men that want to go 50-50. Now, the 50-50 psychological operation is different to if the guy's not there yet in a position where he can. It's when he can and he chooses not to, though I don't respect those men at all. I have no respect for them whatsoever, because as a man, you should want to be useful and provide. And I stand by that. And that's a hill that I'll die on. So it's nice that you can speak to how that's affected you as a woman. It's improved your health, your sleep. Everything's improved since, you know, for you, since you've decided to make those choices. And you've got enough data to be able to say what's been bad for you and what works for you, which I hope more women listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've just observed it in all my friends and like the women in society around me. You know, I've seen women who are well taken care of by their partners. And this doesn't mean like that was a really great distinction you made around, you know, going 50-50 if the man is kind of building his empire but is not quite there yet. That's very different to a man who's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm happy for my woman to pay 50% so I don't have to work as hard, or, you know, whatever the narrative might be. Those are two very different situations. But yeah, you know, I've seen like my friends, for example, who have men who are taking care of their women really well. And, you know, some of them are mothers, some of them aren't, but all of them are really happy, healthy and thriving. I don't know a single woman who's in that kind of relationship structure or dynamic who is unhappy or unhealthy or not thriving. Not a single one. But you know, on the flip side, I know many women who are not thriving and are not feeling, you know, happy and healthy and fulfilled when they've got a man who doesn't really want to provide and step up. But I will say that as a woman, if I've got a man who is, you know, he's still building his kingdom, his empire, he's maybe not making a huge amount of money, but he's so driven and ambitious, and he's willing to, you know, sacrifice everything to provide for the family. And I also want to say provision is not just financial. Like so much of the provision that you offer me and our relationship is that emotional provision, like how much support and care and love that you offer me. That's that like trumps the financial aspect by far. And, you know, I've said to you that you want to be with a man that, like, if he lost everything overnight and you like lost all your money and you know, your family was destitute, that's the man that you would stand by, and you would just trust that you guys would rebuild together and that he would be able to provide again and he would still hold, you know, the container of the relationship and the family unit together.
Yeah.
So yeah, just because I feel like a lot of people get lost in that, so women only want to be with some billionaire dude. It's not true.
Yeah.
Like seeing a man who is purposeful and driven and ambitious and wants to provide, like that I think is the most attractive thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we even spoke about this when we were coming back from our trip, and he said something along the lines of, look, I knew you did well, but I had no idea that you had this kind of money. So it's like, while it's something that is not obvious with me, it's also something that I don't advertise to the extremes around things. And so it was also nice to get that, where it's like, yeah, I'm like, do this and do that and let's do this and let's go there. So there's a very much like, you know, ambition comes with saying I live my life on my fucking terms, and it's like I don't care about how people take that, think about it. Some people think I don't have as much money as I say. Other people think I'm, a wanker for like wearing gold Rolexes and all that sort of stuff. None of that lands on me, but it was a nice reflection where you're like, wow, I actually didn't know you lived this way, which is very much consistent around that drive and ambition to say, no, I live life on my terms and we do whatever we want because money is not really it's not an issue. And I actually think that while there's emotional provision, I want to reiterate that emotional provision comes with a man's ability to be contained. So it's understanding with an absence of emotional spillage and slippage in the man that's important. So because some people will listen to it, and my emotional provision is not me being emotional. It's not me being out of control, emotional, asking you to hold space for me and all that. It's actually the absence of emotions within me, but you know that I care enough because I'm sitting there and holding you through a process that's difficult for you in an easy way.
I really want to ask a question on that, actually. So for the men out there, do you feel like your ability to be emotionally contained is directly correlated with how successful you are?
100%, definitely, because men that are successful have gone through stuff to get there. I was doing a podcast yesterday, and the rites of passage, one of them I said is go and start a business without the help and shoestring it and learn about yourself in that. Because I think success is not just about money. Success, the number one trait that I believe you need to be successful is to be adaptable. And you have to have a flexible personality to do that. And so for men out there, if they're not driven by a level of success, then they can't commit to themselves. So when you have a commitment to yourself, then you can commit to others and take care of them. If it's just you're lazy going, oh, I want you to take care of me and you can make the money and you can pay my bills, that's boyish behavior. And I've said this for a long time, that being successful is fucking hard. It's very, very, very difficult. It's not hard to make money. It's hard to be a successful human being. And so for men, the biggest driver of success, the quality you need is adaptable, but the definition of it is how useful are you? You have to be fucking useful in this world as a man. It's the number one thing, to provide worth and value to the world by being useful. So you have to solve a problem. And so success for that is being useful. So I take care of you. I'll take care of our children, our family. I take care of others. I take on an immense amount of responsibility because I'm useful. And I think that you have to do that as a man in this world. If you're not useful, there was actually an analysis of the 8 out of 10 men kill themselves because they get broken up with and they leave a relationship. That statistic might be different in other places, but going on this, the suicide notes all had two common words: I feel useless and worthless. So success comes with how useful you are. And this is what we need to get back to, because there's too many men out there thinking that it's cool for their woman to look after them from a financial perspective and 50-50. And like I said, if a man chooses that out of an unwillingness to have the drive to be successful, zero respect for that. That's not a man, that's a child. And there's too much of that going on in the world at the moment. So that's a good question. That was a good question. How do you think we handle challenges as a couple, and how could we improve?
So I think that we handle challenges incredibly well. I think that we communicate extremely well, which is, such an important element of navigating challenges and conflicts together as a couple. I think we both make quite a point of trying to not project or blame or get defensive or, engage in any of those behaviors, and really come from a place of like deeply wanting to understand our partner. So coming from a place of openness and curiosity, and like we were chatting about in the car, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? You, I think, said maybe a better.
Yeah, do you want to love your partner or do you want to be right?
Yeah.
The two of them can't really, they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure we've all been in like a situation where we're having conflict with someone and we're like really in that space of like trying to get our point across and be like, no, I'm right about this. And I think we can all agree of like how detrimental that is to like reconciling and reconnecting with someone in that moment. So, putting all of your personal biases aside like that, and just, approaching your partner with curiosity of like, I genuinely just want to hear you and understand you in this moment. And it's always like those times of those difficult conversations and conflict, it's always like a portal to deeper connection with one another. And you learn, well, I feel like I learned so much about you, when we engage in those more challenging conversations or moments. And there's been a few times where I've become a little bit more like emotionally dysregulated because I more so associate like a difficult conversation with us becoming disconnected, whereas you just see it as like, no, we're connected, but we're just having a conversation about things.
To figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So my emotionality can like come into it and, maybe make it a little bit more tense, at least on my part. But, you're so non-reactive, which is so helpful for me in these times because it really helps me to not escalate and like stay as regulated as possible and not get reactive. But yeah, I think that's like a really big part of, how well we handle challenges as a couple. And, we sure as hell had a lot of like challenges thrown at us, pretty early on in our relationship.
We did.
And
external challenges.
External
not
challenges.
internal.
Yeah, yeah. Like we were fine. We were so peaceful in our relationship, but we had a lot of stuff going on, in our periphery. And I think just how we handled that was so beautiful because, even from the get-go, the we and the union was the most important part of, coming together as a team and remembering that we're a partnership. It's not about the individual and the I. The we has to surpass that and be the most important thing and the priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I think and that was an amazing answer. So I don't really think I can add much to that, except if it's not good for one of us, it's not good for both of us, which is like the we comes before the me.
Yeah.
And we did experience some external pressure that presented some challenges externally, but I didn't feel we were ever challenged internally.
No.
And one of the things that I think that I could improve is my directness, because I can be quite, direct and not forceful, but quite, I don't have a lot of wastage with my words. And so when they can hit pretty hard sometimes. And that is something that I'm actively working on. So I think I could take responsibility for that in that place and I could improve on, which I'm working on, which is definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love most about you is that you are just so like, if I communicate something with you and I just said like, hey babe, like what you said there, I felt a little bit upset when you said that or, whatever it might be. Like you're just so open to hearing me and you're like, okay, like you take it on board immediately and you implement the change right away. And I think that's just so important is like being open to, not necessarily like compromise, but just working with your partner's sensitivities and like what they need. And yeah, just taking ownership. Like sometimes we do and say things that were so innocent and like there was no ill intent or malice behind it, whatever, but it landed a certain way with our partner. And we have to be open to that and like sensitive towards that. And you're so, so wonderful with that. So
thank you. What's something you've always wanted to do together but haven't yet? So, I mean, that's a pretty simple one, which is like Italy, because we both resonate with Italy a lot, Greek islands and Fiji, which we're doing, and New York, which we're going to do all of that in the next 12 months. So, yeah, I mean, our life is pretty free and pretty open. It's kind of like a very much dictated by how we want to live, not how we have to live. So, which is an important distinction, which is like, how do you want to live rather than how do you have to live? So we don't have to live in any way. Rather, it's like, which is nice because it's one of the favorite things. One of the favorite things for me in this relationship is how I live is very much on my terms. Like I'm not at the whim of financial constraints, freedom constraints, geographical constraints. I've really got a very, very free life. So you coming into that, it's very much like, well, how do we actually want to live as opposed to how do we think we have to live, which I think is really important. So yeah, you mentioned Fiji and, I love Italy. It's my favorite country. And New York, it's an exciting city. So I think those are the things that I'm really looking forward to exploring together with you.
Yeah, definitely more travel with you this year. And yeah, Italy, because when we were just friends, we talked a lot about Italy and that was like a connection point to us because we both have such a strong affinity with that country and the culture there and the beauty of the landscape there and everything. And I remember we were even having a conversation at one point where you were in Italy last year, and I was saying how, because my mum's Swiss, so I go to Europe quite often. And I was saying how I really wanted to go to Italy like next year for European summer. And we joked about like seeing each other there or something, crossing paths. And I just had this feeling deep down. I was like, I feel like I actually am going to see him there or be with him there. And funnily enough, that's going to happen. But yeah, Italy, going to Italy with you would be one for me, and having babies.
Yeah, I think the Italy thing, I remember I was in Lake Como at the time, and I really wanted to get a speedboat up to Bellagio and explore some of the, I think, the more northern regions of the lake. I can't remember exactly where I was. And I sort of felt like, oh, that would be cool if I saw you here at that time, because Lake Como is beautiful, and yeah, I wanted to share that with someone. So looks like that's going to happen. So, what do you think is our strongest quality as a couple?
Oh man, there's so many things I could say to that, because I just feel like we're so solid on literally every single front. Like, not to toot our own horn, but like, we do have a really solid relationship where, the shared vision, values, timing, like it's all there. We've got a really amazing foundation of friendship. There's so much compatibility. There's sexual chemistry. There's like literally everything there. Yeah, I would say probably like our commitment to one another, like our partnership and how we work as a team and our union. Like it's just so solid. And I've never experienced that with someone ever in my entire life, where it just feels like we're, as you say, like one homogenous unit. And it already feels like we're a family, which is so beautiful for me. And yeah, also just how much fun we have together, like the lightheartedness that's in our relationship. This podcast might seem like all serious and deep and whatever, but 80 to 90% of the time we're just literally like being idiots and laughing and just having so much fun. Like when we were in Kyoto in Japan and we got out of the taxi and you threw a snowball at me as we're like walking into a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
And then I just hurl one back at you and the staff are laughing at us. And, that's just the way we are with each other, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think that's like that was a funny moment, because a lot of people are quite proper. And, whenever I travel, I always stay at like really high-end hotels. They're very expensive. And I'm rough around the edges, so I don't walk in with this, like my nose turned up thinking I have to act a certain way. And so it was really cool when we were going into that, because we had the butler there taking in our suitcases, and I just saw a big pile of snow in the garden, and I was like, I'm going to fucking nail it with a snowball, and just did it and threw it at you. And the nice thing was that you laughed about it, right? And then the staff started laughing, because that's just not something that people that stay in 5-star hotels would do. And but that's just how I am. It's like, it's not I don't think about it. I'll swear or crack a joke or, whatever. I don't see this delineation between someone that's working in a 5-star hotel or me being someone that can afford a 5-star hotel. I'm like, if I want to throw a fucking snowball at my woman, I'm going to throw a snowball at her. And it was hilarious, right? So that's the kind of like playfulness and stupidity that we engage in that most people don't see. And it's like, it's nonstop laughs pretty much every day, even when, yesterday you were having a moment and you're in tears, and then within sort of 5 minutes I had you laughing.
Yeah.
And so it's like those sort of attributes, like just those subtleties are like super important to having like a strong relationship, because you can be best friends and you can just be playful idiots. And it's like, I think there was a quote I heard once. It's like the secret to a long-lasting relationship is to stay as young as long as possible. Maybe I just made that up. I don't know, but it's something like that. Maybe I took it from somewhere else. I don't know. I won't say it's my own, but that's part of it. It's like the playfulness, the affection, the closeness, and the best friend quality is really important, because I think it's, rather than having a relationship, you want a companionship. And so when you can be put into challenging environments and fun environments, it's really important to be able to maintain that lightheartedness. And I think one of the other things, adding on to everything you said, is the chemistry without intensity between us, which is, intimacy is not intensity. And I've been in intense relationships before where, I've sort of looked at the chemistry around the intensity as some marker of significance. But with us, what I find one of my favorite attributes is there's a really strong chemistry, but there's no intensity. In fact, I've never been so calm in a relationship ever in my life, where there's no distortion, there's no worry, there's no stress, there's no fighting. There's none of that. That intensity is just not there, which the nervous system registers intensity as significance. But the feeling of the understanding of the depth of the bond, there's no intensity there, which is like, it's a very new experience. And, that's definitely going to be something that I think that I will for sure, and maybe we both will talk to more and more.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, I think so many of us, because, we kind of got our images and ideas of love through like books and movies and all of that.
And childhood.
And childhood. And, then we start to conflate like things like getting butterflies in your stomach and like having adrenaline running through your body, and like ruminating about someone as like, oh, we conflate this with love and attraction and all of that, when actually it's like quite unhealthy to feel that way about someone, and it's incredibly unsustainable as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been so nice to have such a stable, grounded relationship with you and connection with you, but we're absolutely not sacrificing on any of the like sexual chemistry or desire for one another or attraction for one another. Like, that's the strongest I've ever felt it for someone, but there's the complete absence of any intensity or like instability around that.
Yeah, there's a good quote that I heard a while ago, which is, you cannot negotiate genuine desire. And there's definitely like the deepest genuine desire from that perspective, but it's not met with this crazy rumination or what are they doing, or fear of loss, or fear of abandonment or anything like that. There's none of that there, and it's just it's definitely a new experience from that perspective, and it's nice to be able to sit in that and experience it.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Where do you see us in 5 years, and what excites you the most about our future?
Am I going first?
I think you're up first, yeah.
Okay. Where do I see us in 5 years? Oh, I love this question. Yeah, I absolutely see us like having a family. I don't know where I see us living necessarily, because, we have talked about the desire to live abroad a fair bit, but, we very much just live our life in the moment and, do what feels right for us at the time. So it's kind of exciting to see where we'll end up. But yeah, absolutely just family and becoming parents, which will be like the next evolution of our union together, which is incredibly exciting for me, because I've never met someone or had a relationship with someone where I feel so confident in them, being the father of my children, and also just our ability to parent together, because we discussed all of that stuff from pretty much day one. Even I think as friends, we talked a lot about just parenting and childhoods and all of that. And, we actually went through quite similar things as children, both very traumatic upbringings. And we both just incredibly aligned on how we want to raise children, and the way I guess we see that role and responsibility as parents and as caretakers of children in this world. So yeah, I'm so excited for that in 5 years. And yeah, I can't wait to have kids with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't add anything to that. That was a good answer. I'm going to leave the spotlight with you on that one.